Waiter's Top 10 Restaurant Movies. We have actually reviewed all 10 of these movies in our episodes over the years.
Absolutely.
And we've compiled our top 10 restaurant movies. We want to get the feel of an entire restaurant. Some of them are back of the house base or chef base, and some of them are front of the house more skewed. And our metric is going to be, what are you going to watch and get a whole restaurant
perspective of the restaurant?
Yes. And number 10, we have 1982's Diner. That's going to be with Mickey Rourke, and it's an ensemble cast.
Yeah, it is an ensemble cast. It has a bunch of people. Kevin Bacon, Mickey Rourke, Steve Guttenberg. It's about a group of friends.
Yes.
And they go to this diner in Fells Point in Baltimore, and it kind of is where they end their night, and they all kind of meet up and tell their stories throughout the, of life in general.
Yes, a lot of stuff happens to them throughout their life, whether it's life-changing marriage and engagement and things like that. And the diner is where they go to really hang out and regroup and talk about things, whether it's the beginning of the night or the end of the night. It's very Northeast, in my opinion. Maybe I've never lived out West. You have. But diners are big in the Northeast.
Yeah, definitely.
And so Diner is number 10 because it really doesn't give you much of a restaurant feel, but it gives you an outside perspective of what a restaurant could mean.
For the patron.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And number 9, it's 1997's Good Burger.
Look at the Good Burger.
And I really wanted to put this higher. It's really a funny movie.
It is funny.
The restaurant is the backdrop, and believe it or not, fast food is like, if you add up all the fast food, it dominates the number of quick serve restaurants
for sure.
and fine dining restaurants. It's just the behemoth of, it's an entry to restaurants.
Absolutely.
And you get that, you don't get a restaurant feel necessarily, but you
understand where, you can see the different characters, you see the different personalities in the
first job.
Yeah, first job, back of the house, or even, in that kind of situation, back of the house and front of the house, they really coexist in the same kind of universe.
Well, I think, the register would kind of be front of the house because they clean up.
Exactly.
Put the trash away, this and that. And I really like this movie, and I really wanted it to be higher, but as a complete restaurant movie, it just didn't make it.
Yeah.
But if you've never seen it,
it's hilarious. They made a part 2.
Did they?
Yeah. It came out recently.
Really? I got to check that out. And it's still a restaurant movie, or did it translate?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
We'll have to watch it and review it on on another time.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to number 8, Boiling Point.
Yes.
What do you think about this one?
It's I like it cinematically. It was good. Mm-hmm. We had talked about it when we did the review of the show. It's a one steady camera movement. It follows people in one steady. So it's one camera moving throughout the whole show, and it kind of takes you through their whole situation of the night or whatever it is. It definitely has a lot of different personalities, especially in the back of the house. Mm-hmm. Not as much in the front, but you do see some front.
You do see, it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I really wanted to like it more. I didn't find that the front of the house was very accurate.
Yeah.
As far as the feel of a busy night. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to be a busy night, but everybody was so super casual about having time to chit-chat and having time to kind of be this way. There is a lot of tension.
Oh, for sure.
In Boiling Point. Particularly between, I believe, the sous chef.
And the head chef.
And the owner. And the owner's daughter.
Yes.
And the head chef was kind of was he the alcoholic?
He was a mess.
He was a mess.
He was just like a full-on mess.
I agree. And I don't see a lot of that. I do see a lot of that, but not in the way that he portrayed it.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Because I know we've dealt with, personally, a couple of chefs that were messes.
Yeah.
But they were also all-stars. And this guy didn't seem to me to be like an all-star.
It looked like his all-star days had passed him.
That is true.
Yes.
That's a great point. And, at number 8, it's still high. It's a good...
I think it's a good restaurant movie for sure.
What do you think is missing? Why isn't it higher?
What I did like was the relationships and how they touch on certain things. But like you said, it didn't seem realistic with certain situations. Mm-hmm. And it could have gave us more. The different
functions of of like the dishwasher,
Yes.
was the drug dealer, and he was supplying the chef, and that gave him some kind of
leeway.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
And so those little dynamics happen. They could have just packed a little bit more in there, and it's just a couple of tropes that would really bring it home for me. That would resonate, but maybe it resonates with some other people that worked in restaurants. But cinematically, great movie. Restaurant movie, it's our number 8.
Yes.
Getting to number 7. And Danny, you wanted this one a little bit higher.
Oh, Burnt.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea. I did want it. It was in my top. When I first looked at the list, I just starred what my 5 would be. It was in my 5. It ended up being 7, which is fine.
Okay.
But I thought it had, like, I like the idea of how it kind of shows you that world behind, like, the whole Michelin star thing.
Yes, Mr. Bradley Cooper. I think this one was like 2015.
Yes.
2015. And this is very much a story of redemption.
Absolutely.
So not much of the front of the house, although you see the transitions between the front of the house. You see the owner who has to have that come to Jesus moment with Bradley Cooper, the chef. He's our all-star, Michelin star award-winning chef, and he's going for another star.
He's trying to come back.
Yeah, he's got his pennants on the way.
He was in the game fully, and he hits rock bottom.
Yes.
And then he goes and shucks a bunch of oysters, and that's when the movie kind of starts off, right? I think.
Yeah.
And he humbles himself, and then he's trying to reinvent himself in the game.
And he's putting together his all-star team.
Yeah.
And he's back to work. Now, Chef really does, Burnt gives you a good idea of a little bit of a character flaw that some chefs have. And it's, what I mean by that is big-time genius.
Oh, yeah.
Big-time talent. But sometimes they don't see the forest for the trees.
Absolutely.
You know, make me a bicycle clown. No, I want to make this. This is what I make. This is what I want to do.
This is what I do, yeah.
Regardless of how it lands with other people. He's a little bit gruff and things like that. So it really does give you that complicated man.
Absolutely.
He's a complicated man, and no one understands him but his woman. Burnt. And so, yeah, check out that movie. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Number 6.
Chef.
That and Danny also wanted this one a lot higher.
Not too much higher. It was in my top 5 as well.
I wanted it lower.
Yeah.
It was a good family movie. Maybe not a family movie in a Disney kind of way, but a relationship movie.
It had a relationship. You know, It talks. What I did like about it was in the beginning you see what it all takes to go to run a restaurant, honestly, which is the time, the detachment that you have to have from your family, and all those little things that go with it. Because if you're gonna have a successful restaurant, you're really not gonna have a successful life. Okay, you know, it's almost like
that's a great
you
point.
Choose one or the other.
That's a great point.
You're spending 14, 16 hours in this building all the time, you know, especially when it's yours and you're building up from the ground up.
Restaurants are jealous bitches, man.
Yeah.
They require all your time.
All your time and all your attention.
All your resources. They want it all.
And it really touches on that. And then what it grows into is he finds a work-life balance, able to bring his kid into it. And that's what I kind of liked about, you know, it shows that side of it.
Okay, so for me, it didn't really resonate as a restaurant movie because it started out that way.
Yeah.
And he was once decorated as far as, not decorated, but he was once lauded as a great chef. And he wants to, you know, put together his concept now. And the reviewer blasts him.
Yeah.
And he goes off. He goes nuts. And so it starts to kind of fall off as a restaurant movie for me once he starts to do the food truck thing. The relationship between his ex, the relationship between him and Scarlett Johansson, the relationship between him and his son, all very good, and I like that. But the restaurant part of it becomes the backdrop, and it really shows you, like Danny, like you said, it really is a tough balance to make when when you're being successful, and it draws the point on if you're going to be successful, you're going to need help.
Exactly.
And so he's really struggling with that. If I'm not if I'm not mistaken. Now let's move on to now we're in the top 5.
Top 5
and Dinner Rush with Danny Aiello.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting movie. Another family dynamic.
Yes.
Because his son, I believe, is now the chef of this restaurant where these gangsters want a piece of. And they're trying to muscle their way in or muscle Danny Aiello out.
Yeah.
And what did you think about this movie?
I liked it. It had that definitely that, early 2000, late 90s feel of where everything's kind of mobbish. You know what I mean? Not really like, it's like the tail end, like the whole... We used to have great mob movies in the 90s, with Goodfellas and everything. So it's like the dinner version of that, where they're kind of touching on... There's a hint of mafioso. It still has the family aspect. It's like that old restaurant in your neighborhood where you're like, okay, it's a staple of the community, and you can see how... these people want to infiltrate something like that because it has such a good base. Everything
from tasting food, the way that the chef will present things to people throughout. Because if you're in with the chef, he's going to make you a little something. Have you tried? And there's some elements to that really resonated with me. Dinner Rush, having the space, not a lot of space, because there was, I like that restaurant feel. It's because a lot of restaurants are born out of just what we got. We got this house. We're going to make it
work.
Yeah, we're going to make it work for a restaurant. You go down the narrow stairs and you got to, serve coming up. So that feel of a restaurant on a busy night.
Yes.
Where I'll be right with you. I'll let you take a seat at the bar until you're ready. And so those elements I really liked. In addition to the relationships that happen in a restaurant. So check out that one, Dinner Rush, at our number 5. Now we're getting into it. Number 4, we have an unexpected one, Slamn Salmon.
I had it higher.
You had it higher. I think it's rated really well at this because it's tough because it's a
comedy.
It's an all-out comedy.
It's an all-out comedy. It's done by those people who do Reno 911 and all them. Yeah, so that whole I'm talking about. So it's hilarious though. It shows both sides of the restaurant, the front and the back. The plot of the story is the owner comes in and puts the pressure on him to have this sick night because he effed up and lost some money.
He wants the sales.
Yeah.
I like it because, comedy aside, it gives you a good view of what restaurant servers deal with.
Yes.
The front of the house, getting sat at one top, having to deal with pressure to sell certain items. Yeah. Also,
it shows you the incentive-based stuff for the servers on there.
Yes.
If you do XYZ, we'll give you XYZ. If you can do this, regardless of the reason why it happens, it still shows it.
Yes, I did. As far as a balanced movie, believe it or not, this was one of the more balanced movies. Front of the house, back of the house.
Absolutely.
It shows you that servers do relate to each other this way, and then to the back of the house and to the owners.
Yeah.
So there's a triangle of relationships or not just it's a tesseract of relationships. There's really so many things that go on in a restaurant. Believe it or not, Slamn Salmon does a great job in portraying that. Number 3.
The Big Nard.
Stanley Tucci, Tony Shalhoub. That's it's going to be one of the earlier movies that we did, 1996. And it has that.
It's a family, it definitely it's about two brothers that own a restaurant and how they one kind of does the front and does the PR stuff
and the business
and the other one is the chef.
Yes.
And it shows, the progression and also the stagnation of both ends.
Art meets commerce.
Yes.
One of the reoccurring themes of restaurants is art meet commerce because the food and the creative comes from sometimes this person that has one or the other.
Exactly.
And there's a big imbalance because he's the big talent, one of the brothers, the big talent, but he does not bend for commerce at all. And
No.
he's like very
He's very old school.
old school, antagonistic to you're gonna eat what he gives you. You're not gonna tell him what he wants. And so his brother, who's more front of the house, more management, more ownership, that kind of thing. And I believe they also try to stay afloat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And another reason why this rate's so high is not only you get that art meets commerce, is you get the different relationship with the host, relationship with this person who's a reviewer.
Yeah.
You really have to tap dance for dollars in a sense to make this whole thing run, because you're not an island.
Absolutely.
You need people to come through the door and put money in your coffers.
You're 100%.
Now we're coming up to the big two. Number 2. Is it a surprise that Ratouille?
Not to me.
Great restaurant movie, light on the service part of it, but the journey of this rat
The rat
to become a chef.
Yes, and how it coincides with his muse.
Yes.
And how he plays the puppet master, and how you kind of, where you can see like the balance of like a sous chef and a head chef. How maybe one can help the other one grow, especially if they've been stuck in their ways over time, or how you can see where an up and coming can just, where it can just spotlight itself.
And also in several levels, where do you get credit for your talent? Right?
Yeah.
So the female character, was she getting credit for her talent? The mouse, was he getting credit for his talent? And then you have a chef that really has his feet into taking over a business. So he's sort of the villain. So there is that restaurant aspect to it, but there is a love of not just food, but creating food. Yeah. That is very evident, and they do a really good job with that, and that's why that's our number 2. And our number 1 is Waiting. 2005. We just did a show that will come out, I guess, before this one, about the creation of that movie. And this one's a little bit, it resonates with me because Shenanigans was a Bennigan's. Bennigan's was my first restaurant. And I actually know and worked with
the guy who co-wrote the movie.
Yes, who unofficially co-wrote the movie. And that's not the reason why it's so high. It's high because
it shows all the relationships.
Yes.
It really does. Between the front of the house, the back of the house, management, bussers, everything across the board. How just a relation, how a restaurant works, with the laughs, with the cooking, with the timing of everything.
Yes.
It really touches on everything that we go through, and it can relate to any restaurant, whether it be a casual sit down to as high as a 4 or 5 star restaurant. You're gonna have all these different personalities in every kind of situation.
Yeah, slam dunk. And it is a way to portray that, hey, a lot of the because I used to say this. If you want to instantly know about 80 people, go get a restaurant job.
Oh, yeah.
Go get a restaurant job. And these people hang out. Not all restaurants do it, but we've both worked in restaurants that do have that social component.
Absolutely.
Then you have the management relationship with the bussers that are slacking. You have the host relationship with not just the kitchen seating somebody late, or seating people. Getting these people are a pain in the ass. It's a wonderful job at our number 1. If you haven't seen it, who hasn't seen it?
I mean, how have you not seen it?
Yes, no surprise.
Especially if you listen to this podcast.
That's true. No surprise, that's number 1. And that is our show for today.
Yes.
We will see you next time. Later.